on Hurts, the quarterback?
Well, I think every quarterback, for the most part, and becomes a function in many ways of their team, and Hurts is very much that kind of player. When you think about the Eagles and how they won a year ago the Super Bowl, my guess is most people, the first thing they say is not, boy, that's Jalen Hurts' team. I mean, this was a team with a running back that had a historical season. They've got the best O-line in football. They had the best defense in football. Jalen Hurts is a piece of a really good team, and they do a lot of things that are difficult to defend. And let me give you a few examples. And I've spoken to coaches this offseason about it. They are a four-down offense, literally, once they get to, let's say, the minus 45-yard line or the 50-yard line. So now what happens is defenses, when it's 3rd and 8, have to play them totally differently because you know what? They're going to run the ball on 3rd and 8. Most teams will never consider running the ball on 3rd and 8. So now you have to think, how do I play defensively? Because they're going to run the ball, because if they get to 4th and 2, they are going to go for it. And Jalen Hurts is a critical piece of their 3rd down and 4th down offense. And one of the things he does exceptionally well, and I heard this a lot this offseason, everybody talked about A.J. Brown and how critical it is that he can win one-on-one on the outside. Because Jalen Hurts, the best thing about his throwing, Colin, is he works outside the numbers. He can throw the fade ball. He can throw the go ball. And A.J. Brown gets a ton of one-on-one because of the nature of their run game, which, of course, Jalen Hurts is a significant part of. So he's a critical piece in what he brings. But if you're comparing him to, let's say, the quarterbacks that we think of as being the elite guys that can, in a sense, be the guys that win games by themselves, he probably does not fall into that category.
But so here's the problem. People take what Greg Cosell said as the opportunity to pretty much say, see, the Eagles don't really need Jalen Hurts, or other quarterbacks can step in and still win. When we've seen, and I'm not doing this whole thing where we're going through all the teams, because I've done that so many times, and we're just gonna leave that now in the past. But just all these other great teams that have had fantastic goal lines, fantastic weapons, great defenses, etc., etc. And yet those quarterbacks get a lot of credit for their successes. When in reality, what makes this Philadelphia Eagles team so hard to defend, which is accurate, Jalen Hurts is the quarterback that completes this puzzle here. That you can't just throw in a Dak Prescott. You can't just throw in a Baker Mayfield. That you can't throw in a Brock Purdy, a Kirk Cousins, a Jordan Love, a CJ, right? Like that you can't. This offense would change fundamentally if you had like a Joe Burrow. Like now we can use the special quarterbacks, like the Joe Burrows and whatnot. But it would change fundamentally. And what makes this offense so exhausting to defend against, which is why we also saw so many games break open in the second half. Jalen Hurts is a massive reason for that. A massive reason for that. And they talk about how great the run game is and how great Saquon is. But this is the thing that's bizarre, because Derrick Henry was a monster. And I understand that Lamar Jackson passed the ball more and whatnot. But Jalen Hurts ran a better offense. He made better decisions. Did Lamar Jackson win more games by himself? Absolutely. You could absolutely positively make that argument that he won more games himself, whatever that even means anymore. I don't even know anymore, honestly, than a Jalen Hurts. That's fine. I can concede that. But who ran a better offense, especially when it mattered most? That was Jalen Hurts. That was Jalen Hurts. And so when you say that some of these other quarterbacks won games more themselves, that's fine. Again, I will concede that. But we use that now as a jumping off point to be like, see, Jalen Hurts doesn't have to do as much. And that's just fundamentally false. I've really reached the point and both Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts have really shown me this more and more, is that it's slowly, and I will still discuss it, I'll still talk about it, but under very specific circumstances, I'm slowly becoming less and less interested in talking about quarterbacks who can win with less. And I'm about to make another video at the request of JCT in the comment section about talking about, you know, who did the most with less. And I think it's a conversation about like Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I think that's what it's about. I'm not sure. And that in itself individually can be a thought-provoking question. And especially during the offseason to kind of break down and analyze and have those discussions. But it just has to be done so appropriately that when we're having this type of conversation, like I just remember when the Philadelphia Eagles were winning and when they won, I think it was after they won the Super Bowl, everyone just said, oh, actually, I think it was before going into the Super Bowl. People were like, well, Baker Mayfield was the quarterback. They definitely win the Super Bowl. If Dak Prescott's the quarterback, they definitely win the Super Bowl. You know, and they say all this type of stuff. And it's just like that is the type of stuff that's just like absolute utter nonsense. Absolute utter nonsense. And it's just like, even if you've seen, say, a Baker Mayfield maybe have to do a little bit more with less this past year with some of the injuries and whatnot, there's zero evidence to believe that Baker Mayfield runs this Philadelphia Eagles offense as efficiently and as high level as Jalen Hurts has done so. I mean, Jalen Hurts from an efficiency standpoint was near flawless. That's why they won the Super Bowl. Just because Jalen Hurts had to do less in terms of volume and less in terms of weight that he had to just carry himself doesn't mean that he was an absolute crucial point and part of this identity of this team. Yes, the O-line is a big part of the run game, but it's also because of Jalen Hurts. It's also because of what Greg Cosell is talking about of this third, how they, the way how they operate on third and fourth downs. Jalen Hurts is crucial at. You know who goes for it a lot on fourth downs? The Detroit Lions. And yet it looks completely different than what Jalen Hurts brings to that table. And you know what? You know who put his team in a better position to win? Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts. And there were some gotta have it moments. And again, I like Jared Goff. I like Jared Goff a lot. I think he's great. But there's some certain gotta have it moments that, like, you know what would have been really nice if Jared Goff could run a little bit faster than my 75-year-old father. Probably would have picked up a couple key first downs and would have really changed the defense. Could be the difference between winning a Super Bowl and not winning a Super Bowl. And we have to stop downplaying that. And you know what? You're right. Throughout this season, you were not saying that this is Jalen Hurts' team. What about in the Super Bowl? What about in the literal Super Bowl? Both Super Bowls. Did you say, boy, is that run game and that O-line great? No, you said Jalen Hurts was great. You said Jalen Hurts was the best quarterback on the field. What about in the NFC Championship game? Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts. Like, that's the difference. So does Jalen Hurts need to be the leader and the quarterback who's carrying this team week after week after week? No, he's not. Absolutely not. Neither is Patrick Mahomes. I don't think Patrick Mahomes has ever had that. Tom Brady, I'm not so sure. Aaron Rodgers, I mean, like, you're talking about quarterbacks that have made big plays and big moments, absolutely, but like start to finish, like, that's what I'm saying. I don't even know what that even means anymore as much. I really don't. I think it's obvious when teams like have a wonky game plan and you can see the quarterback just doing whatever they can to come away with the win, which is like, I've seen Josh Allen do that. I've seen Lamar Jackson do that. I've never seen Patrick Mahomes do that because he's never had to do that because of Andy Reid. I'm trying to think. And I can't say that I've ever really seen Jalen Hurts have to do that. But I have seen Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl have to make something out of nothing, specifically that first Super Bowl. That first Super Bowl, he made a lot out of nothing. A lot out of nothing. And the Eagles consistently have an offense where they are not scheming guys open. And I've talked about this before, and some people tried to push back, and then it was like, as the universe found me, I came across a clip of Darius Slay. Let's take a listen. So this is Darius Slay talking about how A.J. Brown is not schemed open.
AJ at 5 is look. AJ out of 8, everybody in that first 5, I feel as in it's besides Tyreek because he unified with fast and everything. He faster than everybody. So, but everybody on that list is from top 4 is mostly schemed open for me. As a DB, I done seen Chase line up in the backfield. I see Justin line up in the backfield. I seen Tyreek be getting the 3-point stands by the damn tackle, guard, and be motion across there. All I see is AJ doing is line up at X. Come see about me.
Yep. Which is interesting because listen to what Greg Cosell says about Kevin O'Connell in the same interview with Colin Cowherd.
What Kevin O'Connell is really good at, just like Kyle Shanahan is really good at, is they're really good at getting the primary read open and available for the quarterback because they're really good at understanding defenses, which is critical as a play caller. You're not calling plays in a vacuum. You're calling plays based on your sense of defensive tendency and probability. And one thing Kevin O'Connell's really good at, we saw that with Sam Darnold last year, which is why Sam had such a good season. One of the reasons anyway is he's so good at getting that primary read open. And that will be critical for J.J. McCarthy this year.
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy. But you understand? This is in a lot of ways is what Darius Slay is saying. And this is what Jalen Hurts as the passing quarterback, let alone just a quarterback running an offense, has to deal with. And I highlighted this, especially after that Packers game in the playoffs. That, like, everyone came away from that game and was like, oh, God, the Eagles, what is this? And it was just like, and they were trying to talk about Jalen Hurts' throwing. And again, credit to Dan Orlovsky. He's like, dude, no one's open. Like, look at this. And then when you actually really look at the game, you're like, oh, that was a masterclass by Jalen Hurts. He never forced the ball. He found the tight window throws. He picked up crucial downs with his legs. He had to, like, usually when we talk about take what the defense gives you, it's usually kind of said from like a different frame, but like there was not much there for him, and he managed the game. He managed the game in a game-changing way. I said what I said. And something like that gets really undervalued. And if you think that Jalen Hurts wouldn't be able to still pick you apart, if you gave him a pass-friendly offense like a Kevin O'Connell can do, you're mistaken. But make no mistake about it, Kevin O'Connell doesn't do a good enough job of establishing the run game and getting that going. He did not help out Sam Darnold, and John Middlecoff went nuts on him. And I totally agreed. I was so grateful because that was my conclusion. And then when I saw him do his breakdown at the end of that one playoff game, I was like, yes, that was I was like, yeah, I totally agree with this. I was like, man, I feel like I was being gaslit for a second. Gratefully I saw that clip. And so it's just like, sometimes you just can't have everything. And that's why it's going to be fascinating to see what their new play caller does. And I loved what I saw out of that preseason game. I mean, I'll just say this, and this will annoy some people, but, I got to speak my truth. If Jalen Hurts struggles, if there's like a sense of like an actual struggle out of Jalen Hurts, which I'm not saying he's going to, but I'm just saying, if there's any sense of struggle, or, things look like, 2023, he's throwing a lot of interceptions, and people are like, oh, see, told you Jalen Hurts just isn't that good. It's just any of that type of nonsense. There will be an absolute push for Tanner McKee. Absolute push for Tanner McKee. Just the way it works. Even though you just won Super Bowl MVP. If Jalen Hurts has a down year, a bad year, turns the ball over, the Eagles come up short, they don't win the division, they get knocked out in the wild card round, there will absolutely undeniably be a push. And people will discuss it a bit in the media. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it should happen. Go check my record of defending and praising Jalen Hurts. But I make observations. I don't, that's what it is. I'm not here to a lot of times when I have, you know, my takes, it's commentary on the sports world as a whole. I'm not coming to you from the place of saying the Philadelphia Eagles need to consider Tanner McKee. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just making the observation and the commentary about everything as a whole, and I believe it. And I know true Eagles fans who have been there from the jump will know, yeah, there'll be fans screaming Tanner McKee, right? And the local networks and all of that, they'll all be like, oh, what about Tanner McKee? Well, why not? The passing game looks better. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw a clip of a post-game live with Michael Barkan, and he talked about how the passing game looked better with Tanner McKee. And he said, why doesn't it look like that with Jalen Hurts? And it was when he played against the Giants, I think it was. I'm pretty positive I remember that clip. Pretty positive. So granted, that was pre-Super Bowl. So that's, you know, pre-Super Bowl MVP especially. But, you know, Jalen Hurts is, I think he's just destined to always have that uphill battle. And he knows that. That's been his entire football career. When you really think about it, it's been his entire football career has just been an uphill battle. It's just you know, and in a lot of ways, I think he's the type of person where he's like, I wouldn't have it any other way. I used to feel that way, but I'm like, nah, I've seen enough bad things. I've had enough, you know, tough stuff. Like I want things a little bit easier, man. You know, like I'm ready. I carried the cross. I did all that stuff. Like, come on, please make things just a little bit easier. I built my character. I got my humility. I got my gratuity. You know, I'm filled with gratefulness and a full heart of love. Please just make things a little bit easier, please. But Jalen Hurts is like, nah, bring it on, man, bring it on. And he definitely plays for the right city for that. That's for sure. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles? Jalen Hurts. I'm not even going to ask if you think he should be ranked higher. Like I said, we've already done that a million times, but I am curious your thoughts on what Greg Cosell said, what I said, and just a general conversation about Jalen. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.